Welcome back, everybody, to Gringos Liberados. My name is Trajan. I'm joined by 4i4, and back by popular demand is Rose, our wonderful producer for most, if not all days. Does such an excellent job behind the scenes. Welcome both. Welcome, Rose. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you feeling?
Pretty good, taking a few days off, after the last Sunday's games, and those are I'm still trying to process through that. So
yeah, you've gone to meditate in a field of beautiful yellow tulip-esque flowers by the look of it.
Yep.
That's we all wish
getting
we could
some
be
fresh
there.
air today.
Absolutely, touching some grass, recording some podcasts, the two things that we should all do in life. 4i4. How are you feeling? Are you fed, or are we're still gonna be consuming through this one?
We're gonna be consuming through this one.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I've eaten enough now to where I don't have to, but then it'll go stale. I don't want to deal with that. But yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
another day, another dollar.
You know what certainly isn't stale? 4i4. It's the LTA South. It's the LTA South.
No, it's not.
And before we get into week 2, we do have the breaking. It's not even breaking anymore because it was pre this week starting. But this was the story leading right back to the start of this week. We checked in on the disappearance of Burdol and the suspicions and tweets and rumors around that in the last week's podcast. And before week 2 started, he was gone, disappeared, black-bagged out of the league, and Summit was welcomed back to South America. Came in for ISURUS Estral. So Burdol is just gone. And when we say just gone, there was some chat as he went out the door. The quote that I have from one of the 4 CEOs of ISURUS Estral, which is just a ridiculous number of
hilarious.
C-level. Just ridiculous.
Far too many CEOs.
Absolutely
I get that
insane.
there's a merger. That is wild.
There's an argument that 2 is
How many do they have again?
4.
It's not one.
Each side has 2, right? And they all merged, and nobody
was like, I want to come inside.
I wonder if they do rock, paper, scissors to decide what happens every now and then. Because there's 4 of them.
At least make it an odd number, man. Like, at least give yourself...
So you, if you need to vote on something, it's not just like, we're deadlocked at 2-2. Sorry.
Yeah. So I don't know about that, but one of Estral's CEOs opened up, and this is the quote from that Shotana posted on Twitter, and this is as translated by Google for the reasons of why Burdol was kicked. Number 1, he played badly, like an idiot. Which is just brutal start. Just a brutal start.
So funny.
So it is a quote, okay.
And there were times when he did play quite badly, like an idiot. So, sure, right? Number 2, didn't play solo queue while he was in Korea. Now, also, fair enough. Sounds like was not very committed to practice, right? People go to Korea for the sole purpose of playing solo queue to improve at the game. And so I guess not practicing hard enough while in Korea. And 3rd, lied about taking English classes during the team's time in Korea, which is very strange. Presumably was instructed, or maybe even politely requested, to take English classes to better communicate with your multi-ethnic team in the LTA South that will need to use English as a common tongue, and just didn't. So... doesn't sound like my guy was very committed 4i4. Sounds like my guy was not feeling it, and to
put it lightly, and and this is not what I'm about to say. Please don't take it as me trying to dunk on ISURUS, because especially after they are now 0-4, I actually do feel awful for them, and especially after Leviatán went 0-2, they got dog walked by Loud, which in the year of our Lord 2025 is not a sentence you want to find yourself saying. We got dog walked by this iteration of Loud. Something's wrong. You guys know me. I've been the biggest Loud homer on this podcast for a long time. Always giving them the benefit of the doubt. Holy jeez! I think they'll be a top 6 team, but good God Almighty, I did not expect it to be like this. But this is just ugly, man. And it's so much like, imagine you're Jose Deodo, right? Your stump speech at the end of Split 1, rightfully so, was, hey, none of the other teams are taking this seriously enough. They're not taking it as seriously as we do. And then one of your star imports is not just doing the bare minimum. I don't know about you guys, but at my places of employment, if I'm paid to do something and I just don't do it,
yeah,
that usually doesn't work out well for me.
Yeah, my guy's going real Gen Z with it. You know, he's quiet quitting over at ISURUS Estral and didn't last very long with that one. I guess at least they pulled him up on it, and to be honest,
they dealt with it summarily, very quickly.
Yep. Rose, go ahead.
My worry with IE is, was Burdol the problem, or is this a larger symptom of what's happening to IE?
Well,
because
they put Summit in,
I know the answer to that,
and continue to lose. So maybe it's not just Burdol,
right? Week 1, Pain crushed them. Pain being Pain, not surprised.
Cool.
FURIA then came out, 5-year super team. Great. IE struggled against them. FURIA kicked them to the curb. Week 2, right? We go over. They lose to Fluxo.
Yeah, man.
On week 2, day 1, which I don't think any of us expected, because I was sitting back here watching the game, ready to hit buttons, and I'm like, I have to give Fluxo a win.
Yeah,
that's your get right game, right? If you are
that's your get back on your feet, right? Like,
exactly. You're Estral, right? You are death spiraling. Oh, praise be the lighthouse in the middle of the storm. We get to play Fluxo W7M, and then you just pee on yourselves. Fuuu had an amazing game.
And it wasn't like credit to Fluxo. Like Fuuu played an amazing game, but like Fluxo's not clean, no matter where. Like, I specifically remember a gank happening that Ganks and Fuuu tried to set up on bot lane. It somehow worked out because Fuuu is Fuuu, but Ganks just fell way off the page. Like, they're not on the page yet. And if IE is struggling, losing to this team that went 0-7 in Split 1, there's a larger issue at play.
They didn't even get a chance. They went 0-4. They didn't get a chance to go 0-7. You know what I mean? Like, they went the spiritual equivalent of 0-7 if there were that many games.
Yeah. Now I remember well, yeah.
But they certainly didn't win a single one as the takeaway, right? And from week 1, we were like pleasantly surprised, but like, well, Fluxo has something to offer, and we said this after week 1. They're not going to go lossless. They are going to pick up wins. We just don't know where, but they have the tools to do it. And the first thing they did week 2 is beat the Split 1 champion. Like, okay, sure, love that for Fluxo. And as you say, Fuuu still putting up Monda performances, and the rest of the team are able to just kind of send it to the level that they need to. And if you're sleeping against them, they will roll you over, and we love that. So great for Fluxo W7M, but absolute nightmare for IE. Putting in Summit, he goes like 1-6 on Rumble, complete flop on the start. They show up the next day versus VKS, get flopped again. Summit gets once again trounced, terrible scoreline. They look completely out of sorts, nothing to offer. Like, to be fair to them, that wasn't as bad, that game against VKS, who is now our sole 4-0 team, as anyone who can see the standings will see. They looked less bad in that game, but they never felt like they were going to win. They never felt like they were really in control of it. Like, we're losing. There's no reason for us to have faith that they will mount a comeback, that we should believe in them even if they don't look good. Like, that we are so rapidly, I think, for me at least, running out of patience with wanting to believe in them anymore, which is such a massive turnaround. It really just cements that, like, the Split 1 just surely was entirely fake, like, for IE and for Leviatán, which we'll get onto later. But the LLA squads are on fire. And all we did was take lane swaps out. That's all we really did. Like, we're not playing crazy champions. The meta's not the same, but it's not unrecognizable. Come on, guys.
This is still BO1s, right?
Yeah.
There's none of this. There's not this woke, fearless nonsense that they're pushing down our throats. Like, this is legitimately just, you are playing badly in best of ones. Yeah, look, the only kind of different thing, right, is like on the meta, it seems like there are more carry champions in more lanes. Right, like, I think the meta was trending towards that way. You don't have a traditional tank in the top lane, but now, I mean, I look at like one of Pain's compositions where they just ran 4 carries and a support.
Yeah,
like, which hilarious. If you're Pain, great, go for it, right?
Yeah.
But they won. Was that the game versus FURIA or the game versus Fluxo? No, game versus Red.
The game against Red.
The four.
Red.
Yeah.
They won.
Which they won, right. Yeah, 4 carries and a support, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Camille, Lilia, Yone, MF. And then Alistair.
Based.
Very based.
They were we got the hands and we'll throw him out, right? Like
we're just gonna beat the snot out of you.
And they did.
Pain being pain, right?
Yeah, right. And Red do not have as much hands per square inch, with this new mid jungle. They just don't have as much experience. I mean, Grevthar was never a hands checker, but Margot and Doom, they're fresh players, and they still look like fresh players, right? That's fine. So we've kind of bounced straight into the review of week 2, so let's just continue on with it. But let's go back up to the top. Let's go top to bottom this time. Let's go to VKS, who are, as we said, only 4-0 team. However, if we look at their schedule, the first team they beat was Fluxo, which was not a super clean win, but now I think we can see why, because Fluxo are kind of legitimate. Then they beat Red, who are 2-2, middle of the pack, new mid jungle, very kind of stabilizing. They need time to gel in. Then they beat Loud, who are 1-3 and have had one good game so far this season. It was a pretty good game, but they've only had one. And then they beat IE, who are 0-4. So if you look at the bottom half of the standings, that's all the people VKS are beaten. So
literally the bottom 4 teams, yeah.
Literally the bottom 4. So their super week is Furia, Pain, Leviatán. Now Leviatán, maybe that doesn't really count, but Pain and Furia in 1 week, this is where we will see where they actually are and who is actually the best team, I think, in the league, because their games don't look as good as the Pain wins or the Furia wins, if I'm honest. Now, does anyone think more of VKS? Rose, 4x4, does anyone think that they're actually should be our considered best team right now? Or because I'm in a holding pattern on them. I'm not convinced yet.
Yeah, no, not yet. But they could be. It would surprise me if they went between Pain and Furia, if they 2-0'd that, I would be very, very, very surprised.
Yeah.
But look, this is just like CL continuing to do what he does in best of ones. Right? I saw the LTA South account, or the Brazilian LTA South account, LTA South. They put out a stat. If you were to take the best of ones in 2024 split 1 and 2024 split 2, guess who finished first in both those phases?
Is VKS.
Kane.
Yep.
13-5, 15-3, and now they're 4-0. So that is a combined. Again, let's do some quick maths. That is what, 32-8?
Yeah.
I think in best of ones over the last year and a half. Again,
split
we checked the schedule so far.
It's fake. Doesn't exist.
Exactly. As we're seeing, literally matters nothing.
Yeah.
For me, I wouldn't be surprised if VKS came out first or second seed out of the split, regardless of if they're
including
facing
playoffs,
Lev in the next few days,
or like just out
now,
of.
Including playoffs is a different beast. I will say something about playoffs makes these teams' brains function a little differently, as it is. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't be, and in playoffs specifically, it wouldn't surprise me if Pain, got out first, because that's just what Pain does, right? But in terms of just this group stage,
so
VKS
post this and the
second
BF3 groups as well, because after next week is Super Week. That's the first stage, and then second stage is the BF3. So,
I firmly believe VKS is taking first or second seed.
Yeah,
including the best of 3 that's coming up.
Yeah, because I think they're gonna be better in the best of 3s. Obviously, they didn't look like bad in split 1 because they didn't understand how Fearless works or whatever. The players did not play well. They didn't play well together, and that's now no longer an issue, right? Their players are playing well, and they seem to mesh well as a team. But I believe that if they're going to put anybody into Fearless best of 3s, I think CL and the VKS coaching staff have certainly proven themselves that we'd expect them to be one of our higher performing understanders of that genre. So yeah, I think it's a pretty fair statement to make, especially because talking about Furia, I guess, in conjunction with this as one of the main 2 contenders, right? Pain, we're kind of expecting as a bit of an heir apparent because they're back on form and they've got that history, they've got the skills, they've got the talent, right? They're looking good. So Furia and VKS are really the 2 contenders to be in the first and second seed with them, right? VKS certainly looks good. We have high hopes for them going into the next round of best of 3s. Furia is the other option, and I'm now waiting to see when are we going to see the problems again, because they had the warm-up game versus Lev, which was messy, it was rough, they got punished by a pretty mid team is what we've now seen, but since then it has just been lights out, banger after banger, taking out teams with 0 notes kind of thing, just looking absolutely insane. So are they going to keep doing that? Are they going to be inconsistent? Are we going to show like players once again like IU fumbling when the pressure is on? Like Tattoo, who is going crazy right now, is he going to fumble when the pressure is on? Like,
yeah, but this is what happens with Keyd every year, right? It's about this time or maybe like next week, right? In an equivalent split where IU just kind of falls off the map.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we see some of the problems. I will say this. I mean, I don't think we've seen. Well, actually, no. I'll never forget that thumbnail of I think it was I don't know if it was 2 years ago when they photoshopped IU next to the CBLOL trophy after FURIA went like 2-0 or 3-1 to start the year, and they were like, "Is the split just over?"
Nah,
and I'm like,
they cursed him since then. He's been fighting
what
against
are we doing?
the voodoo since then.
Yeah, no, but I think they have a different sort of engine in. I mean, I think Gigo. I really do think this team will go as far as kind of Gigo goes because you have players that can carry from almost every role. I mean, Tattoo isn't like he's not a kind of hard carry guy, but he.
I think he can be.
But I mean, look,
it's not what
he can be, but no, exactly. But I think they have that to flex into, right? And I do think the Fearless will be fascinating. But I think right now you've got Gigo and Tuts performing just like very, very admirably, right? IU I think went deathless this week, right? So I'd like to think that if one, they don't need kind of all 3 of those cylinders to be firing at the same time. They could have one kind of fall off a little bit, but. Maybe as I say that, maybe that is the reason that they are kind of doing so well, right? I talked about how Pain they're running competitions with 4 carries, right? Maybe that is just how you win right now, right? Bull, to talk back about Keyd, right? And another really good week again on carries, right? On the Jax and the Gwen, he was like really effing good. And I keep thinking of what RMC said last week on the podcast, like guys, Bull isn't a bad player; he's a bad tank player. And in tank metas, he gets sent down to tier 2. But in carry metas, you have to believe in Bull. And I was like, okay, RMC, like I get what you're saying, but like, also I know you have a pharma background, like just let me get some of whatever you're on.
Yeah.
But the case is mounting that Bull is a legitimately good carry player.
I'm really close to stopping being
my
Bull.
only worry with Furia at the moment is they came out shaky against Lev.
Yeah.
They handily, maybe not so handily, but definitely defeated IE down. So, they woke up a little bit. Yeah. Week 2, they come out with, that win against Pain. And then, on Sunday, they treated us to the fastest game in the entire split so far, I think, when they dismantled Fluxo, right? My worry is we haven't seen the maximum of what Fury can do yet. And it's what we will see in a few days in that Super Week. When they face Red, when they face VKS, and then when they face Loud. Like, that's going to be their ultimate real test to see, like, have they woken up from that slump where, they go 3-1 or do very well in the start of the split? And then can they continue that, snowball going forward?
Yeah, because they broke their own record for the fastest game. Because previously it was them over IE, and then they beat it with 26 minutes, and then they had a 24-minute win over Fluxo, who had just beaten IE as well. Like, we just seen kind of Fluxo get over the hump and then got slapped down again. So what they're just so good when they're good, man. Right. They're unbelievable when they're
good. My worry is Guigo.
It is definitely Red Gigo, not VKS Gigo. It is the duality of man Gigo, not.
It's Guigod or Guigon.
Yeah.
So there's no in between.
Because on VKS,
and if a team can successfully punish Guigo,
well, that's the thing, right? Because on VKS, it was low key, just Gigod every single day. He had such a good run of VKS. That's why we were so surprised that he left, and why they clearly didn't want to let him go. Right? He had such a good run.
He won an MVP.
Right. He was so good. But then in the Pain game, they tried to shut Gigo down, and he was 0-3 on Rumble. We were looking at a Gigon game. And then he ends it like 6-3 or 6-4, and Furia stomped the game despite that. So even, it's kind of to your point that you've made 404s, maybe you don't need every carry to work every time, and to yours was about like, it may be, Gigo is kind of the question here. Even if we have a bad Gigo game, Furia have proven that they do not fall apart. And that's against the best team, probably the best team, one of the best teams in the region. And that was really encouraging, that when the game plan doesn't go perfectly to plan, it doesn't all fall apart in that Pain game. So that was really good to see. Now, it was not Pain's most nuanced attempt at a game of League of Legends. They were just going for Gigo incredibly vindictively all through that one at the cost of everything else. But sometimes like teams will do that and they'll focus on, and that's the way they want to push. And FURIA were able to punish and still win off that. So that was very encouraging. And that makes me wonder if they can be the more resilient version of FURIA that isn't perfect 24-minute banger, or we can't win if it doesn't all go exactly as we said it was going to go in the prep meeting kind of thing. So yeah, we'll see if that translates to more. They are playing against VKS next week, and we'll get an answer to that question. FURIA also playing against Red and Loud, so 2 Chaos engines that could trip them up. Yep. Loud especially have been a bit of kryptonite for them in playoffs for multiple splits in a row now. As good or bad as Loud ever looks, they seem to have FURIA's number as much as they have Pain's number. So
yeah, that was the reverse sweep last year, right?
2. So there was one of them was a reverse sweep, and one of them was just a normal Gate 5 loss. But one of them was a reverse sweep in the upper bracket, I think, and
they were in the same bracket, right? It was in the same year. They did it twice to him.
Yep.
Incredible.
Yes, it was. So very brutal stuff for FURIA. But
cool.
I think so. The Gigo, I think, is still a question because he's not playing as well as he ever has. He's still having good games, but he is having bad games. But the thing I love most about him right now is Tatu and the energy that Tatu has, because he is full vibes guy plus excellent mechanics on the Rift, multi-genre talent, laughing and smiling his way through every second of every game. And that's the energy we want, man. That's the CBLOL energy that we want. So
no, he's so sick. Like you said, he's getting up and barking all the time, right? Like he's tackling Tuts in like his post game interviews, just like hugging him, and just like it's very like the vibes on that team are extremely good. And you have to give credit obviously to the players, but again, wanna shout out ThinkCard again, right? You don't know how much impact he's having on the culture there, but what you will say is that, and I keep coming back to this, because we've seen a lot of especially Korean coaches come into Brazil, right? And they try to institute this very like, and again, it's not bad, but a very rigid kind of way of thinking and a mentality that, like, culturally, Brazil and South Korea are very, very different in terms of how seriously they take themselves, certain things in general. And again, I think there are merits and demerits to both. But so often what you see is people coming in here and saying, "Oh, I see these insane Brazilian mechanics. I'm going to come in and fix it," right? And then, but what CL and others, but what CL has done is that actually I'm going to let you be who you want to be, right? But instead, just kind of like you have to marry the two, right? You can't force feed anything. And ThinkCard clearly, I feel like, has done that. Again, we want to see them go through more adversity and beat kind of some tougher teams, right? But they did beat Pain, right? And very good, like. They stayed controlled. They stayed within themselves, because that was the slip-up game for FURIA. They could have easily been 2-2, right? Yeah. If you circled that one on the schedule, okay, this is where they're going to come crash back to earth. But let's see how they do against the other middle-of-the-pack teams. They played it very well. Busted out the Seraphine support. Hello?
Yeah, man. Ash Seraphine.
Awesome.
Banger.
Awesome. So look, you got to give credit to ThinkCard as well, because it seems like he has a good grasp on like how to. He's taking a page out of the Peter Dunn and the Abashal books, right?
Yeah.
The Western coaches. Or the Gringo coaches who have come in here and done a really good job in this region. Just
like a random side note that ThinkCard has been getting into it on Twitter with a UK Tom Kench top lane OTP about like whether Heartsteel is a good first buy on Tom Kench and stuff, and they're like debating math calculations with like ThinkCard, LS, and this guy called No Arm Watley. It's so funny, man. It's
I think I saw that.
Yeah. That's hilarious. And it's I just love that he's still getting into it, man. But he is, regardless of whether the math checks out on the 4 Giants belt buy, ThinkCard is an undoubtedly highly positive force on this FURIA roster, as he's like the atmosphere is amazing, the performance is exceptional. So
yeah, man.
Let's just see how far we can go with this, folks. Let's see how far they can ride it out. Now, for Pain, 3-1, they did lose against FURIA fairly handily, I will say. They looked a bit sketchy in that game, but they then went right back to clapping on Red, and they've clapped basically everyone else that they've played. Well, Loud was a tricky one, but they still got the win. So
yeah,
Pain's still looking very good, right? And they lost to maybe the most exciting team in the region right now. So, I mean, does anyone have any any doubts or worries about this Pain roster? I know, Rose, that you were thinking that Pain is still potentially very, we shouldn't be doubting them at all, but like, given how good the FURIA look and with the VKS and everything, like, do you think there's a chance that we don't see Pain in the final and it's actually just like a FURIA VKS 1-2, or I don't know, what are you feeling on that?
I think they handily make playoffs. I don't think that was ever out of the table. I have a few concerns on how well Roamer and Karaoke sometimes sync together on their dives, or how well they sometimes take over the Baron fight. Because in their objective fights. Because in their fight, specifically their fight, the one game they lost, it's been playing over my head. That one fight over Otacon, where FURIA, they were ahead already 4K, but they committed to something that felt like a desperation play.
Yeah.
Where they flipped the coin, said, we have no way out back into this game unless we fight this objective, and we need to pull the trigger now. They lost that coin flip, and they got their first loss. If that is a strategy that teams in the Super Week that's coming up can exploit, what is Pain's answer to that?
Yeah. I mean, because it makes sense, right? Roamer's the new guy, Korean import, right? Has some experience playing with an NA team, so it's not like full, not Burdol tier, I imagine, in terms of lack of communication abilities, but like there is gonna for sure some meshing time. And Karaoke, I think, is quite a versatile kind of chameleon jungler, so hopefully, I think it really should be Karaoke should change to be whatever Roamer needs to get embedded in, and I think that is certainly something he can do. So, no Lee Sin games, dude, it's going to be Sejuani and Ivern for you, I'm afraid, but he's good at those champs, so I think that, yeah, everyone is going to have to leave a bit of room for Roamer to help him settle in, but there's definitely a little bit of a...
So, my one thing with Pain, and then before I throw it to 4x4, is Pain, in all their games, they play this extremely structured sort of take objectives now, move to this lane. If not, go to this lane, move it, and so on and so on. In Red, in their last game on Sunday, they successfully found these little spots in Pain's armor that other teams hadn't found so far. FURIA, I think, just demolished them. FURIA just being FURIA was just the thing. But every now and then, Red would find this pick, this miracle play that kept me believing that Red could win that game versus Pain. And it's a thing I think other teams should, take note of, is that some of these teams, Pain, play this immeasurably structured game. They're used to objectives happening now. They're used to scuttles spawning now, camps coming up now, this rotation happening now. There's this mental calculation that they're all doing when this game happens. And suddenly Red comes in with their Talia pick, their amazing sort of like ability to move across this map, where they can almost successfully pick Pain apart, until Pain just said, nah, screw it, pedal to the metal, and just dismantled Red after that. So like there are weaknesses that Pain has to be aware of, and it took me back to what League was a few years ago, where it was just pick after pick happening in Fog of War, where teams just had to react to this constant what's it called, blitzkrieg of attacks happening into them. So
Red, I think certainly were that they are just like fight all the time right now. Team, they're like looking for any opportunity to fight, and the better team is just like, why are you fighting now? Why they're not ready? Because like, why would you fight now? It's not good for you. But because they weren't expecting it, it kind of works out. They just kind of it tricks them into losing a bad play, right? So yeah, Red definitely do have that destabilizing.
But that's just Red, I think. So
yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, and I feel like that is that you could even extend that. If I kind of had more data points, what it made me think of is just like what people always say about like, or one of the things that gets said about Brazilian or Southern teams internationally is that they fight when they don't need to. Yeah. Right, and that there is always some team that just forces you to like go against your best instincts here in Brazil, and we don't have like, that's what this is, like we don't have like good competition or whatever, right? But yeah, with Pain. Was that the question? Are we worried about Pain, or were we talking about?
Yeah, do you think that there is a chance that Pain is the one left out in the cold and third and not in finals, basically? Because we've kind of been working on the assumption that they'll be there, but do they actually feel like they're better?
I think there's a chance, but I I trust Pain. They've put together too big of a body of work, especially with this roster, and seeing them evolve even a little bit now, right? Like Weiser showing the Camille. Weiser had an incredible week. Honestly, like it was a midweek from Titan, and that was if there's any like worry, quote unquote, Romer was okay. Like he was fine. Again, Rose brought up some points. I thought he was meh. Yeah, we'll go to the fantasy check-in real quick. I have 3 Pain players on my fantasy lineup. Weiser made me very, very happy. Romer and Titan made me very, very sad. But Shitty had an insane game on the Xin Zhao. So finally, the one game Shitty, my Shitty pick looks validated. It's gonna be right back into the pits next week. I know, but for one day it was so sick.
You're out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but again, like if there's one player you can't really, I'm not really worried because. Again, Titan had a bit of a down week. I think I give more credit to FURIA in that win than Pain. They team fought so well. The amount of space that they created, right? Especially into the comp works. Like they were playing against Titan, and Titan was on Corki, right? It was a very short range comp. I think Romer was on the Silas, right? And very short range composition. And I think FURIA just team fought extremely well. The space they created with the threat of the Seraphine ult, with there was one fight around River, kind of like 12 or I don't know, it was in the mid game, bottom River, and Pain tried to encroach. Right, Titan was trying to just like pop shots from the banana bush, and Bull didn't, or not Bull, freaking Gigo didn't hesitate and just immediately dropped the red carpet onto where Titan was firing from.
Yeah.
Right, it's like this is about one specific thing, right? You guys are a short range composition. If we can block out your consistent damage threat, we're gonna steamroll the rest of this fight. We're gonna fight a 5v3, right? They played they team fought extremely well, so I give more credit to FURIA there. I'm not really worried about Pain. I think they will be in finals. And again, if there's one guy you can't, right, who has been the most consistent player, arguably in CB LOL for the last however many years, just game by game individual performances, I think Titan. We've never really had a doubt. It's like, again, he hasn't won all the titles, but like he won 2 titles with Red and he won 1 title with Pain. And even when he was on Red and Pain, right? Yes, he has his Titan moments, but like you can always be like, no, he can carry you a game, right? Thanos has had his up and downs. Robo is Robo, right? Maybe Root is another guy that you could put in that conversation where he just kind of consistently shows up every damn game. So I'm not worried about Titan to bounce back. Therefore, I'm not worried about Pain.
Yeah, and like the Misfortune game was an intentional step back. He was playing Misfortune, that it was the 4 carry composition. He was just the least important, least agency carry, and he just played his role very well, right? He just played it out exactly how he should. He shouldn't be the star of the show in anything like that. You don't have the ability set to do that, really. Like, and that's exactly what he needed. So that was really good to see that's possible.
And that's like the Cope take is like, look, no, but this thing is it even Cope? Because like he died 5 times. And I think that's what it's like. It's not the fact that he got 1 kill, it's that he died 5 times, right? But it's like, well,
who else are they?
If you die 5 times, yeah, exactly. Then then Weiser says thank you, and Karaoke on the Lilia says thank you, because they all died like a combined 3 times, and they just murder blasted everyone else.
Yeah, it's just the MF
I will
curse.
say, I don't want to see Titan on Corki again. He felt so awkward on it.
Low key. It's been a while since I saw a good Titan Corki game, and even going to last split, as in the cross conference play, I don't know, man. I think his Corki's kind of busted. Like I kind of don't want to see it either.
I don't know if it was just that one game specifically or how it meshed with the team comms, but every single team fight that Titan wanted to walk into, maybe do some poke, it felt like he was just throwing pillows at FURIA.
Yeah, I think he gets caught on it quite a lot as well. Like I think he doesn't know how to position properly on it. I think, or maybe I don't know, something about his Corki does not hit. So I'm kind of in agreement.
But I will agree with 4i4 is that it was less of like Pain stumbling and more FURIA just ripping them apart. Because FURIA's just entire macro was fine. Their micro was just brilliant. Just IU dancing across everything with the Ashe, with the confidence of the Seraphine, having them to back him up. Like that was just amazing. I want to see more of that FURIA. So
and we spent a long time on these top 3 teams, but this is because they're cool. The last thing I will say is what a great week from Tuts on FURIA as well, because that was like the missing piece for me and for a lot of us. I think was Tuts. Tuts has to have a better split because everyone on FURIA is so good and so talented, but we just haven't quite seen the same level from Tuts, and it feels like it's going to hold them back. This week was great. He had an absolutely stellar week. I put him on my fantasy thinking, I just don't have the budget for anyone else. They're against Pain. maybe he's better than worse options, but he actually did really, really well. So respect to Tuts for kind of stepping up, and that if that piece continues, that's the real final missing piece for me. Is if Tuts is able to contend again. So hopefully that continues, man. But great to see that return, or at least this week, for someone who is a championship winning mid laner, and we just haven't quite seen him up there in the top echelon for a while, but he certainly was last week. Right. Let's talk about Leviatán. 2-2, 0-2 this week. The wheels have fully come off, to be honest, after an incredibly fraudulent week one that we identified has proven to be...
I was going to say, we kind of talk about that.
To be incredibly fraudulent. And we're just... The carries are not looking in the same conversation for the top as they were last time. Like, they're not hopeless, they're not useless, they're not awful, but they're just not in the class of their own that they were before, and now it looks more like a sort of thrown together, less experienced, less elite quality team that we kind of thought they would be in Split 1. Now, they don't look like D tier like we were putting them in the Split 1 tier list, but I don't see them making top half again. Like, if they did, it feels like it's going to keep slipping down. It feels like Fluxo's a better team than them right now. Like, low key.
Oh, yeah. I got to think about that one, but I think the point is... Oh, goodness, poorly timed, Yon. The point is valid, right? Like, the Fluxo, it feels like they're at least giving you a little bit of something. Leviatán, okay, Zothvi still, he got a solo kill again, Zothvi's right? They have these kind of, individual little moments, but no, it's ugly from Leviatán, man. It just never felt like they were in any sort of, like, winning position throughout the entire weekend.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. Like... I just don't know where they go from here, I suppose. They lost to Red. If Loud play like they did before, they're probably going to lose to Loud. I don't see them competing with the top 3 right now. Not again. Like, they stole that win away from FURIA in the first day, but...
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that feels like a long time ago. Yeah. Wow.
I don't know, Rose. Do you have any more hope for Leviatán, or are we just putting them in the bin right next to IE?
They've sort of gone under the radar for me, to be honest. A lot of the for a lot of this is that. Hold up, I lost my schedule somewhere.
Maybe less offensive than some of the teams, but
they did knock Furia down one game. That was the first game of the Split 2 or round 2, whatever we're calling it.
First day, yeah.
Right, and then they beat Fluxo, not shockingly, and then of course they lost against Red. They looked shaky, and then they lost against Loud, which gave Loud their first win actually. No hope for getting into playoffs. That's where I'm sitting at right there.
Yeah, no hope, unfortunately, for Leviatán. Where I'd love to see the story change. We were most excited about them being good because ISURUS Estral, the pedigree was meant to be there. Story. Leviatán was the breakout, and they've just broken back in somehow, if that's a phrase. So we'll see if they can improve, man. But Red did take a win over them, and Red they just look like a mid-pack team with an inexperienced mid-jungle. They've got good carries if they can play to them. Bronze FNB's not having the best split, I will say. He's not looking quite as FNB as he could.
It was the Dreads. He lost the Dreads and he lost so much power.
Power, yeah. It's a shame.
I will say Red for me, specifically in CBLOL, is the sort of will always be, for the moment right now, the mid-weight team. They're always going to scrap. They're always going to fight. If you can't beat Red, you can't get anywhere. So.
Yeah, they don't feel like they had on a perfect week, they could actually just be anybody kind of energy that they used to have.
No.
I don't.
They're the lowest bar I think a team needs to cross to remain competitive.
Especially right now, course, with that.
Which of course drops us down to teams. So Fluxo, Loud, and IE. I don't think I'd ever mention Loud in the same vein as Fluxo and IE. Going into even this podcast, but I don't like to see Loud down there. So
no, it's a bit grim. For Red, do you think we're gonna see Doom for the rest of the split, or do you think we're gonna go back to Aegis at some point?
I think they won't be in. I think they'll make playoffs, so I think that we will see Doom the rest of the split.
Mm-hmm.
But from the little I did see of CD this week, Aegis and Grevthar are absolutely fisting their opponents.
Yeah, why?
It's like, who would have thought? Really? They have 2 titles, and they are dumpstering the second division. And they have a lot of pre-built synergy, and they are each other's bestest friends in the whole wide world.
That's so funny, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll give it a whole split. I think they'll ride it out. Maybe for split 3, right? They make a change. That's if they do make a change, I could see it there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you do kind of worry about. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get a handle on. Red is not necessarily how good they are, but like when they look good, is it like consistent because of one thing or another, right? Or like, are the things that they're doing well to get wins, are those sustainable? Because that's, I think you could roll the dice on Red. Again, I think the range of outcomes is smaller than it was with old Red, but I think you still get a pretty decent variance of like the types of performances that you could get. Brunsey has had a very good week this week. Like you said, FNB's just been kind of up and down, but I've been impressed with Brunsey as well. But yeah, Doom and Mago were just kind of okay. But again, like they have a number of guys that could, at any given moment kind of pop off. But I think you need Brunsey to be the consistent bit of this team right now, because the whole rest of the team is mired in inconsistency. I think Brunsey kind of bailed them out this week.
Yeah, I think he does. So
maybe that's just Red though, I think. So
yeah.
And if that is just Red, great. You're gonna be 3-6, and you're gonna be the 6th seed.
Yeah, I think we need to see less Margot Akali and more Margot Talia, more Margot Azir.
Yeah, Talia, Ari, Orianna, Azir, exactly.
Yeah, let's just let Brunsey get us some dubs, shall we?
I didn't hate the Akali pick, I will say. I think it was more of like a team disconnect with sometimes when the Akali needed to go in and buy time for cooldowns, let the rest of the team fight, pull away. I think they can. I think they can work on it.
Yeah,
I think Red can still surprise us.
I actually do hear that. I think there is something to that, and I think I know this is a devil's advocate, but just like because I don't even know if what I'm about to say is true, but the counterpoint I think to that would be like if you are on Azir, Orianna, Ari, right, your job is much simpler in team fights. Ari, it's get a flank and land a charm, right? That one ability is very crucial. If you're Azir, do damage from the backline or get the miracle shuffle. Orianna, hit the big shockwave, right? And I think because of how chaotic Red are, right, they could use that stabilizing force from your mid laner. That's what mid laners have been in the last few years, right? And so that might simplify the picture for Red. That's my kind of, as I'm workshopping this as I speak, my little pet fix for Red.
Yeah.
So I know we've been talking about Red for a little while. You guys want to talk about Fluxo?
So Rose,
maybe Loud?
Fluxo and Loud, which do you think is the better team, like in the long term?
Loud. I think in the long term, Loud. Obviously, yes. Like I think Loud just had a weird. They had split start anxiety.
Old school Loud, slow start, sleepy start.
Old school Loud, slow start. Right. Like I'm looking at their fandom page. They have the epic, team pose image. They have like who's gonna beat this team? Like come on, but they're 1-3 somehow. Somehow, Loud, the team that we all associate with, CBLOL heritage, team that's always going to go make it to playoffs, team that's always going to have a good showing no matter where they are. And the standing graphic I pull up doesn't show that. Like, what's happening there, guys?
Yeah. I mean, well, it seems like for 3 games, Shinny and them were playing on different planets. And then in game 4, everyone just lined up like ducklings behind Mother Shinny and just went, go nuts, brother. Like, send it. We love that. And he just played Xin, and whatever he did, everyone just followed him. And he went 9-0 or something.
Here's the thing.
And it feels like we're having that same conversation about Shinny every week, even going back to last year on Fluxo, right? It's do they go when Shinny follows? Generally, good things tend to happen when they do that. Yeah. But that was fine on Fluxo, which was an inexperienced roster, and so Shinny was the mother duckling, right? Or the mother duck. That's an oxymoron. Yeah. But now it's like, but that was always the question, right? And that was kind of what I was like, oh, this could be great for Loud, right? But I'm like, well, no, like it's Robo and Tinones and Root. Right?
So
This could be too many cooks in the
specific
kitchen.
thing. So
They
you
simplify
mentioned Shinny. The specific thing about Shinny is I remember watching Champ Select for their game versus Leviathan, right? Their first win. I remember everyone taught like the two casters. I can't remember who it is anymore. It's all just a blur at this point. Where like you look at Robo on Rumble. You look at Tinones on Azir. You look at Redbird on Braum. These are all champions that want to have the enemy team grouped up, either for the Azir Shuffle, the Rumble Equalizer, or the enormous Braum Glacial Fissure, right? But then you line up behind Shinny, as you said, as the mother duck, whose entire ult scatters people around him. And I remember the thought being like, you have a disconnect on your team comp.
Yeah.
And yet, Shinny just goes in and just cleans out house. The rest of the team is there. Equalizer drops down. Route throws out mystic shots everywhere. And it works out. Like, is that a plan that they're going to be moving forward into using into Super Week, or do they have something else kicking up in their back pocket?
Yeah, because they have IE first, which is now looks very winnable. IE looked better against VKS, but they still lost. And Robo's playing really well. Summit doesn't look like all that, really. And, like, I think Loud are in a position to to capitalize on ISURUS Estral still being incredibly meh. Then they have Fluxo, which, again, is, the next worst team going by the standings. Like, they could ramp into that last game against FURIA and then be the FURIA ruiners again. Just to keep. I mean,
they can get out of Super Week 3-3.
They really could.
No,
3-0.
4-3. Yeah.
Yeah. So they could 3-0 and then 4-3 it, and then almost certainly be in like get a decent seeding. You're probably like 4th or 5th with that seeding, going into group stage. And yeah, like they could just turn this momentum swing, because that is how old school Loud played. As they hit playoffs, they switched it on. They had massive momentum in the winners bracket, and they rolled over teams that maybe thought they had a plan and thought they knew how to beat Loud, which they probably did. But like, Loud's got the magic, man.
The mythical elf plan, right? It's gonna come together one magical weekend.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Loud's strength during that, right, was always what? It was their team fighting, right? It was always okay. You enter any 20-minute fight, any Baron fight or any Dragon fight, down 1,500 gold or about even, and they just team fight better. And I think that that has always been the $1 million question with this roster, especially with how Shinny has operated post retirement, right? He's the flag bearer. He's the one that's going in, kind of whether you want to or not. If Loud can, over the course of the next week and then in the BO3 phase, figure out how they want to team fight, I'm not going to say the rest of the league should be scared, but I think that will raise the floor of this team immensely. Yeah. That has always been their strength.
Yeah. Now, we've already spoken a fair bit about ISURUS Estral as we bounced off the Burdol thing. Does anyone have anything else they want to add on Fluxo? Because we mentioned how good Fuuu looked. Excellent week from him. The actual new Brazilian faker coming up through the ranks. But even in their win against ISURUS Estral, they were notably behind in gold. They didn't win the early game. They kind of dragged it back from the brink, which is impressive, but it's not like they smashed them, right? And a lot of people have been smashing IE these days. So they're certainly still rough around the edges. They are just playing with a bit of reckless abandon, but as we said before, they've got like the talent to make that work sometimes. I mean, does anyone else have anything else they want to add on Fluxo before we move on, just as our kind of unproblematic faves down in the 1 and 3 position?
No, good. Better week for ganks.
Yeah,
still a couple objectives.
Ganks, yeah.
I like to see that there are signs of life for them, that they haven't given up, like the 0-4 nightmare. But I think there's a lot they still have to work on.
Yeah, for sure. I think that pretty much sums them up, right? So they're not depressing to watch anymore, which is good. They're not really a threat yet, but they're not depressing to watch, which is cool for a team like this, for an academy roster plus Fuuu. I don't know if I'd ask much more out of them, to be honest. So love that. Right, that is how week 2 went. Let's take a quick check-in on the fantasy standings after that. The top 5 people can see on the screen again. Lunar Day extending her lead. Dark Knight following up in second. However, RMC bursting into the top 5, now in third position after gaining just an ungodly amount of points in that week, followed up by Fulminante, and then Rambling FC also sneaking into 5th, so a new entry into that top 5. So we got some chops and changes coming out here. Arashi in the mud, knocked out. I am still very far in the bin as well, and I'll be honest, guys, like, I shouldn't have... I switched so much of my team to try and make it work before it got too bad, but there's such a massive budget loss on Jose that is just, I can't sell him because he's worth nothing, so I have to keep him.
Damn.
And like, I got rid of IU for Seo because I thought Leviatán would have a good week, and I thought FURIA would probably lose to Pain, and IU's only gotten better and Seo's gotten worse. I'm
economically,
house,
you are in a really good. Yeah, you are.
Don't gamble, kids.
Don't do it. I am losing the house in this fantasy league. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. I'm also not doing amazing. I dropped that. It wasn't a horrible week for me. It was bad, but I don't think it's as bad as yours. But I found myself in a kind of a similar spot where, with Titan like plummeted in value after this week. Yeah. But I'm gonna ride it out. So we'll check back in next week. I might be in Trajan despair mode next week, where the sunk cost fallacy really just bites me in the ass.
Yeah.
But
see, I'm happy. I'm not playing fantasy, so I'm not sad depending on how teams perform or not. Yeah. I'm busy writing the Super Week script right now, so like I'll let you guys know how to. I'll give it to you guys Sunday morning, Friday evening. I'll have it sent out just to make sure so you guys know what's happening at any given time. There are a few champ select surprises you guys will see.
Wow, really?
So that's all I'll reveal so far.
Yeah,
can't wait.
Yeah, like so. I have had Zothvi since the start, and my guy is just clocking in for his 13 points every single game so far, which I love for him.
But actually just punching in for a 9 to 5 factory.
But like, even Jose did better. He went from like 1 point to 9 points, and I had Tuts and Jojo, but Tuts, because they won against Fluxo so fast, he only got 9 points. He got 32 points in the Pain game, and it averages down to 20 now, even though he had an insane week. I'm livid.
And that's very real. That's something that I've seen people in the LTA North talk about as well, is that this is why, and this is a thing in traditional sports as well. When you play fantasy, it isn't just, who's the best players, right? There are certain quirks of the scoring system you have to figure out and exploit, and longer games are better.
Yeah. FURIA do not play long games. They just don't.
No.
Yeah, so FURIA, stop winning so fast, please.
Yeah, man.
No, unironically, you don't rack up the goals.
Aren't sad.
Please. Yep. Please just play with your food a bit more. Like a bit more.
Yeah, but is that a danger when we get to like those 50-minute scraps?
And then
at some point,
leave the door open.
You know there's going to be a Baron coin flip. This is just the way CBLOL teams in the past just do things. They play great games, they're up 4K, pushing maybe 8K, and then they sell everything on the Baron flip, and it's all over.
We've all been in those games, like the 5-stack Friends games, where you've got the exposed Nexus and you're all having too much fun to end it. And
but Trajan, I'm bronze.
That's just the impossible
I have
ending.
Silver too.
Yeah.
I am never going to play at the pro level.
But like
these teams sometimes play around. So
we haven't seen him this split yet, but I have to drag him on air. Like the biggest don't end merchant on planet Earth is Rudude. If you get to the exposed Nexus and he is like 10-2 on Kai'Sa, he will be like, don't end, I want to get more kills, because he's like full build by 25 minutes, and he's like, don't end, we have to play more. And 3 out of 4 times we end up losing the game because we end up stepping back and letting them back in. He actually does.
It's the fantasy, right? You want to play the 25-minute full build Akali and just delete people.
Especially on Kai'Sa, right? You want to just style on kids. You want to see how much, but you want to see if you can win the 4v5s, the 3v5s.
It's the vein spotting, like
true dyed-in-the-wool AD carry player, despite also being one of the best like color analysts I've ever worked with. But he will sacrifice the win for the gameplay every time, which is respectable in a way. But I have lost many games because we have been at the Nexus at 25 minutes and he says don't end. So just to so you all know a little bit about the man that he is. Okay, let's look at the schedule for next week. super week. We've already kind of touched on a lot of these matchups already, but let's get some highlights, maybe a favorite from each day, as there are 3 entire days. So does for day 1.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Saturday, Sunday,
it is
Monday.
Not Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
It is not Friday, Saturday, Sunday, correct. So,
Yeah.
4A4 Saturday, what are we thinking here? What are we really looking forward to? It's kind of a weird day, honestly.
No, I mean, this could be a lot of blowouts. I mean, Loud ISURUS, right? That's the one that kind of sticks out to me, because if you're Loud, you're going up against a team that seems to have completely lost its mind, and 2 and 3 feels a lot better than 1 and 4, especially because you have Fluxo W7M right next to it. Loud could, if they take advantage of their opponents, they could end the Super Week 3 and 4.
Yep. Like they,
or 3 and
it could be an absolutely horrible game in the best possible way, with the way ISURUS Estral are playing and the way Loud tend to play. Like, if Shinny doesn't go 9-0, like, they're gonna get real down and dirty in that one, I think. Because they both want to. Because ISURUS Estral could, if they magically turn it around and go 3 and 4, it's not even that bad. Like, it's not even horrendous. You know, you're almost 50-50 on it after just the worst start ever. So I think that one is going to be the most fun game to watch.
If you want to see a rock fight, tune into ISURUS Loud.
Yeah.
That could be a mess. Sneaky banana skin game, FURIA against Red. That feels like the kind of game
that was going to be my...
Yeah, that's a good choice, yeah. I think if you're looking for that, maybe it all falls apart for FURIA. Red does. They don't feel this as much like that as they did to me, but they've still got it, man. These Rose, you were saying about how they did it to Pain, like they just find the ways to destabilize your game plan, and we'll see if FURIA maybe has the resilience to deal with that. So first and last on Saturday, both possibilities. Sunday, I think it's a cut and dry FURIA VKS angle.
Yeah, man, battle for first potentially.
Could be.
Yeah.
If FURIA win that and they maintain the same record, FURIA would get into first place because the tiebreaker is just the one head-to-head you played against them.
Yeah.
So that would be advantage FURIA.
Depending on how Saturday goes, Fluxo versus Pain, Loud versus Fluxo might be a fun game to watch to see what happens there.
Actually, yeah.
So, like, we'll see if Loud can get out of their slump, if they beat IE, which, I might fudge the script, right there.
Yeah.
But like Loud versus Fluxo, I think is the second one I'm looking at, and then of course, the FURIA VKS match is just like FURIA can probably beat Red. Probably, it's not 100%. Yeah. Red has Red Magic. FURIA has FURIA Slumps. We'll see how that goes into Sunday. So,
yeah. Rose for Sunday. If you had to pick one of the 4, what are you thinking?
I think I just have to go with FURIA VKS. Like, I want to see out of those 2 who's better.
Oh, sorry, I am a moron. For Sunday, sorry, for Monday is what I meant to say.
For Monday.
Yeah.
I really got to be looking at VKS Pain. Yeah. Because again, like, their Pain VKSs are like, it's like Pain, FURIA, VKS. Like, I think between us 3, we've sort of narrowed them down. Like, they're performing well. They have some obvious flaws that they can work on, but they're a head taller than the rest of the pack. So it's going to just be between those 3 teams that I'm looking out for right now.
If I'm a Pain, like, this is our chance to remind everyone that despite what the standings might say, we are the best team in the league. You're targeting. You could go 3-0 this week. And if Pain went 3-0 this week, right? Like, got to take care of Fluxo. Leviatán, they can cause problems for you, but I don't think they should. And then, you got your 2 quote-unquote warm-up games in, and now you got to face off against Keyd, right? A team that has, again, we talked about it historically, over the last three actual splits, no one's better than them in best of ones.
Yep. They are.
CL comes prepared to these best of ones, man.
And, like, low-key, if all of the storylines fall in the right place, kind of every game could be good. Because if Fluxo managed to pull an upset over either their opponents, that Red match becomes really interesting. Red being very middle of the pack mean that this could be the difference between a good placing and a bad placing for them. VKS Pain, obviously, probably a very high quality match, maybe fight for first. If Loud are actually still momentum building into the FURIA match. They might have a chance to once again spoil FURIA's perfect kind of, ending where they can truly ascend, and Loud could be waiting at the finish line to trip them again for the third time in a row. And then Levi going from battle for first in Split 1, being the benchmark, the cut above the LLA Ascendant in Split 1, there's a world where they end up fighting for last in Split 2, or at least in the positioning phase in Split 2, and they go fight for 7th and 8th, and they go from top to bottom fully upended, which, in the last game, which, that's pretty funny. I don't know. I don't want to hate on the LLA. I really liked what they gave us last bit, but it would be really funny.
Agent, don't worry, I'll make it interesting.
Yeah, alright. There's so many avenues to make it interesting. At least one of them has to happen. There's just no way none of them do. So that's Monday in particular, I think, is going to be a great cap off to that Super Week. So look forward to that, everybody. Let's go through just a couple of questions in the mailbag quickly, and then we'll wrap up here. So the first one is more of just a bit that Lunaday has submitted, which I'm here for. I'm here for a drop in bits in the mailbag. Do you think with Loud's age, maybe the games start too late for them, and they'd win more if they played earlier? Just kind of...
How old are these players?
Nap time for Grandpa Tinones. Yeah.
Yeah, they are ancient. They are 26, 27.
I'm turning 28, guys, this year.
I'm turning 30 this year. And I think 4x4 may have already beat me over the line there.
No, I just turned 28.
No, you didn't. You just...
I'm March of 97. Are you 95?
I'm September 95. Oh no! I must be younger than RMC, please. Surely.
I think you have RMC beat by a bit. I think he is 31.
Okay.
Just turned 31.
Jeez Louise, man. I thought it was over for me.
Yeah, I'm June 97, so I still got a bit to go.
These kids. But yeah,
all right,
it's because adding Shinny onto it as well, and Root's not like a spry young.
No, he's not a spring chicken.
Like,
he's been around the block.
Root's been around.
I don't think it's like I don't think it's their age. I think it's Loud being the sleeping giant that they always are. They woke up from their nap time a little late. Now they're here to play. They got their caffeine. They got their Red Bull. # not sponsored, or whatever sponsors LTA South have down there, and they're ready to play. So I really want to see them do well in Super Week, because Loud is loud. Like, what is CBLOL without Loud sometimes?
Yeah, it is kind of sad when they do badly. It doesn't make me feel happy when they don't do well. Sometimes it makes me feel vindicated, but not happy. You know what I mean? It's not really a pure feeling of joy. So hopefully we'll see them.
These games are similar time zone to East Coast, right? Like, it's 12 p.m. when games, noon for us when games start on the East Coast, right?
It's like 4 hours behind me, and East Coast is I think 5 hours behind me.
Yeah. So they're 1 hour ahead of the East Coast now.
So they're playing 1 p.m. Like, it's not late for them. So
if they're asleep by 1 p.m. or if they play the latest possible game 4 p.m., they have
the bus ready to go, ship them back home, right?
Yeah, they've got they need to get their sleep schedules right, man. They're up partying all night. That's really why. Okay. The last question is a bet proposal from Lunar Day. If any of us beat her in fantasy for the entire combined split, she will submit a question, presumably, into the mailbag as nothing but compliments for each one of us that does. But if nobody beats her, then we have to record a game show episode during the MSI break. Now, Lunar Day, as I pointed out to her in the Discord, is miles ahead of us right now. Now, RMC is catching her, but she's miles ahead. She's using LTA North players. She is the Emperor Palpatine of fantasy right now. You know what I mean? So this would be a miraculous overcoming of the odds to do so. But if it did happen, I think it's worth the compliments, personally.
Absolutely worth
from our number one hater. I think it's worth it.
Yeah. And look, I mean, a trivia episode could be fun to do, regardless. During the MSI break,
set RMC down at the grindstone to to put one out again. I love giving him work to do.
Yeah, exactly. And
Hey, I'm perfectly willing to spend a few days of my time designing graphics for a game show.
There we go.
That's just the person I am. And I've done stupid graphics for far less reason.
Yeah.
So
Rose loves to put stupid graphics on the stream. That's one of my favorite things that Rose does.
Whatever excuse you have that lets me create cool graphics and make stuff look pretty on the screen, I will take it.
Yeah. So either way, I think there's upside for everybody. So I think we're happy to take that bet. As a broadcast,
I think we are.
Speaking on behalf of my clients, we accept the bet. Lunar Day. We will see if we can beat you. To be honest, we're probably all going to be combining heads with RMC to try, because he is gone and now committed after week 1 to the LTA South plan, to the LTA South methodology. So we'll see if we can achieve that one. If we don't, we will put together a trivia episode during the MSI break. And if not, then we look forward to the compliments from our most esteemed watcher.
We will definitely deserve the compliments if any one of us beats you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm already sabotaging them.
It would be a feat.
Quite the hill to climb.
Yeah, we're going to need you to write a very specific script, Rose, that really elevates RMC's fantasy team. Okay, like forget all the narrative stuff we just went through. We're going to need to point maximize here. Okay?
All right, so I need whiteout and 500.
I need whiteout.
Emergency, I need whiteout. Okay. Right.
So this team has to lose. This team has to win.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be spicy.
And Weiser has to play Gnar.
Yes,
Weiser does have to play Gnar. Oh, I don't see anything in my PayPal account for it. So like, we're gonna have to talk.
We'll have to pull.
Okay. We'll get back I have your PayPal, so
we'll see some assets. We'll liquidate some assets and get that going. Okay, that's gonna wrap it up for us for this episode of Gringos Liberados. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you Rose. Thank you 404 for joining me here to talk about week 2 as we go into Super Week, which, as 404 so kindly reminded us, is on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday this coming weekend. Usual time, usual place. LTA South on Twitch. Feel free to follow us and possibly even subscribe to us there if you like what we're doing. We really appreciate the viewership and the kind words in the chat. You can also follow us on Twitter/X at LTA South. And you can join our community Discord to talk to us, talk about fantasy, talk about the games, talk about League scene in general, and just have a grand old time. So thank you, everybody. We will see you this weekend. Peace.